Getting the whole shot is a key to winning over 80% of the time. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, expert, or pro, listen, getting the whole shot is the way to go. Don't get me wrong, you can totally come from behind and win the race. However, even then, you still need to be in the front of the race, top 3 going in the first corner. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my 3 best secrets that I use for my Olympic athletes to help them improve their whole shot capability. And I'm wondering if these secrets will help you get a faster whole shot. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of BMX Coach Live. I'm your host, 3-time Olympic coach, Greg Romero, and man, what an awesome day over here in San Diego. Man, it's been raining for like the last week. Yesterday, it rained for 24 hours straight. I kid you not. And what a great opportunity to find and discover if you have a leaky roof, in which we did find something like that. But hope you guys are doing well, man. It's great to see all your guys' smiling faces. Today, can we talk about hole shots? Would it be beneficial if we can improve your hole shot, getting you a faster hole shot in an effort to help you win more races, right? Like in the beginning of this video, we talked about, 80% of the races are won by racing up front. And even if you don't necessarily get the hole shot, listen, racing up front is where the race is at, right? So let's see who is in the chat today. Welcome back again. We're live. DB Sports World says, what up? Nathan BMX says hi. Jack Baker says hi. Jacob James says, good afternoon, coach. The Salty Scout says, let's get it. Please forgive me. I'm just reading what their avatars is. Basic BMX, my boy LAD from NorCal. He's checking in. And who else? Darren Ross, sup coach. Full pull, no saucing. I hear that. Thunder Midget says, hey, Coach G. All right, man. Well, hey, listen, we have a lot to get to here. And, I want to address some of my best hole shot racing secrets. And it's funny, I got tons of hole shot racing secrets. In fact, I think I probably wrote down about 20. But I really felt like these 3 things fundamentally, right? Like when it comes to coaching my athletes, I always remind them of the fundamentals. Believe it or not, keeping it simple is better. However, it's a secret because other coaches and other riders don't know what we're talking about. And there are some things that we keep really, really fundamental, and it surprises people sometimes. No, don't get me wrong. There are some high-end things that we speak about, that we go over, including, with not only with my Olympic athletes, but some of the other athletes that are in my Winner Circle coaching program. And, let's go ahead and get started. And first and foremost, can we talk about hole shot mentality? Because I think at the end of the day, that's one thing I've learned from coaching a lot of riders, right? The mentality should straight up always be about getting the hole shot, going for the hole shot when you're in the gate. I always teach my Olympic athletes, always go for the hole shot, regardless if you're in lane 1, 4, lane 8, you're going for the hole shot, right? And that means to us being first into the first turn. Now, technically, like in motorcycle racing, coming out of the first turn, in the lead is technically the hole shot, right? And like in motorcycle racing. And so I would say it's probably the same thing, right? Like, so if you're going into the first turn in second, but you come out and make a pass and come out in first, did you get the hole shot? Absolutely, yes. And so that's why it's always important. Going for the hole shot doesn't necessarily mean being first to the first turn, although that's the mentality that we're trying to teach here. That's what we're trying to program our subconscious mind, our neurological system, that, hey, regardless if we're in lanes 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, we're going for the hole shot. Because if you go for the hole shot and you're second or you're third, congratulations, you're racing up front. If you're in a semi situation, you're increasing your chance to move on to the final main event. If you're in the main event, you've increased your chances to get the podium. So I have a couple notes here, so I'm going to go ahead and share them right here. Yeah, you may still find yourself up front if you don't get it. That's the key. That's the mentality that we're trying to teach here. This is even more important for a young racer because you don't want to develop the great habit that the race. You don't want to develop the habit that the race is not up front. What did I write? Oh man. Yeah, when it comes to the younger racer, you want to develop the great habit that the race is up front. That's what I meant. And I think most of the time, a lot of riders, whether you're young, whether you're older, whether you're an intermediate or sometimes even a pro, you're just trying to get a good gait and just see what happens from there. You'd be surprised, how many people actually do that. If you guys are in the chat, who does that? Give me a thumbs up if you actually do race as it unfolds, right? Instead of having the intention of actually having to go for the whole shot when you're in the gate. Okay. Number two, it's amazing how many people actually defeat themselves and start settling where they're going to be in the race before the gate even drops, right? So they start to, they get in their lane, they start to look around and see who's next to them, see who's in their moto, and they're already predicting where they're going to be in the first turn. And listen, why do that, right? There's a lot of racers that do that. And I say, screw all that. You got to train yourself to go for the whole shot because one of these times you're going to go for the whole shot and the person that you thought would be in front of you is not there and you're out front. You're going to be incongruent with being out front and you're going to start fumbling the whole shot. Okay. So that's another reason why you want to practice the mentality of going for the whole shot. Okay. And that way, when you do get the whole shot, you're totally congruent with it. And I also say here, train yourself to be a robot that you're going for it. It will pay off in the long run. It's a great habit to have. All right. Great. And then of course there's a two-part to the whole shot mentality. The second part to this is that the whole shot, again, I'm just repeating myself, but I think it's good for you guys to be remembered. It's good for you guys to remember rather that the whole shot also doesn't mean being first in the first corner. It also means coming out of the first corner in the lead. So even if you're fourth place going to the fourth, even if you're in fourth place going into the first corner, and let me slow down here, you still have an opportunity to make some kind of pass, and you never know, right? Maybe the guy in second takes the guy out in first, and you come out with the lead. So, it's all about setting yourself up for opportunity, right? It's all about that. It's all about opportunity and setting yourself up for that. And a couple notes on that. So that means for guys up front, right? So for guys that are up front that actually go into the first turn first, this also means being smart with your lines and protecting the inside from getting past, right? Like that's the worst thing that you want to do is actually leave the door open and let someone come up on the inside. That's a no-no. That's a freebie, and we don't want to do that. We definitely don't want to do that. So we definitely want to think about protecting the whole shot, protecting the inside, and make the guy in second or third work to get around you, okay? And also that means, more higher-end strategy, such as maybe slowing down a little bit and letting the guy in second, come up to you shoulder to shoulder, and then you can kind of either give him a little bump or just kind of check him up to where he has to hit his brakes, and then you could just run away, right? Because when you're going away from him in a turn, it's kind of exponential. You can actually open up a gap really quickly. For guys who are in the second and third position going into the first turn, this also means that you're looking for lines, looking for passing opportunities, and creating opportunities to grab the whole shot from the guy up front, right? So, as much as we like to use our legs to grab the whole shot, it's also important for you guys to race with your head, right? And always be creating, ABC, always be creating opportunity for yourself and looking for passing opportunities and creating smart ones, all right? Is that fair? Excellent. Number 2, preparing the engine. Prepare the engine, right? Listen, training the engine away from the track is the key, right? Like, it's amazing how many people have that mentality of just going to the track, doing gates, doing first straights, doing a couple jumps, doing a couple manuals, and hey, the work is done, and I don't have to worry about working on my BMX stuff until I get back to the track. And in this day and age, people that are training away from the track are the ones that are reaping the benefits, right? Those are the guys that are doing all the hard work. When, listen, all of your improvements, all of your advancements, all of your enhancements are happening away from the track. Because what you're doing at the track, really, at the end of the day, you're really there to just practice the rhythm and practice coming out of the gate and doing all the mechanics, all the fundamentals of a gate start, acceleration, everything that you need to do down that first straight. You're trying to do that without thinking. So really, at the end of the day, you're mastering and doing that without thinking and making that automatic. Now that's great, right? Like, the more that you can make that automatic, obviously the faster you're going to be. But at some point, if you don't impose a new demand, if you don't impose more strength, more power, okay, then, and I mean away from the track, then you're always going to be replicating the same performance, the same power performance, the same speed performance, right? That's just the way it goes. So you have to impose a new demand and prepare the engine away from the track. Think of a race car like NASCAR. Like, the car doesn't get faster when it's on the track. It's faster when it's in the shop, when they're under the hood and they're wrenching on it. And they're swapping parts out, and they're upgrading the horsepower, and they're changing the aerodynamics, and they're working on, and all that stuff, right? Like, preparing the engine is key. Now, there's a couple parts to that, and we'll go over a couple of those things here in a moment. Everyone has a Holeshot engine, all right? And everyone needs to approach it like they're a track and field athlete. Everyone needs to approach it. Listen, BMX racing is a sprinting sport. You guys are athletes. You guys are sprinting athletes. So that's another mentality thing that you guys have to accept. Not only are you guys riding kids' bikes and having fun and jumping around and being in the flow, listen, if you guys want to have success in BMX and getting the Holeshot is key and racing up front is key 80% of the time, right? Then you guys have to work and focus on being a sprint athlete. Okay, very much like a track and field sprinting sport. Okay, and of course I wrote some notes down because when we're spending a lot of time over at the Olympic Training Center, I'm watching a lot of track and field athletes there. A lot of those guys are actually throwers, and sometimes hurdlers will show up. But at the end of the day, these guys are dedicating 5 days a week. I'm watching them. I see them when they're doing their thing on the track. And then I'm watching them in the afternoon in the gym, and we're all doing the same thing. BMXers, track and field athletes, dominating the Chula Vista Olympic Training Center. That's what's happening. And 5 days out of the week, those guys are working on their starts, their sprints, their sprinting technique, and off the track and field, strength training, right? And they're doing all kinds of stuff in the gym, right? Strength training, speed training, plyometric speed training. Okay. So what does that mean for BMX racers? Right? Again, you guys need to embrace the fact and develop the mentality that you guys are sprinting athletes. Excuse me. You need to approach your racing and make it a priority to be as fast as you can. So what does that mean? That means allocating time every week when you're actually not at the track. Being away from the track doesn't mean you could just rest and wait till the next time you go to the track. It's actually an opportunity to develop your athleticism. All right? And there's plenty of time between track practices. I know that. In priority, here are my secrets to developing a powerful first straight. Okay. Number one, you want to focus on gate start, power, and reaction. All right. We're talking the first full crank out of the gate. All right. You got to be able to react and get out front of the riders next to you, or at least compete. So working on your gate start, power, and reaction is key. Obviously, technique, that's a whole nother chapter. We're going to presuppose that you guys have technique, but don't get me wrong. You guys can always improve technique. I'm getting messages and all the time about people, wanting to know how they can improve their technique, because that is a really easy way to improve your gate start power, is through technique training. But also at the same time, you guys need to be practicing developing athleticism, raw power, raw speed, raw explosion, raw reaction. Okay. Things like stand start sprints. Obviously I got some pictures of me lifting weights here, but stand start sprints, right? We'll get to that in a moment. Any kind of stand start sprint where you have to overcome inertia, right? Flat ground preferable. And then of course, plyometric reactive work, right? Things that shock the central nervous system. Okay. And that's developing reaction power basically, right? Anytime you see anybody doing jumps and they're landing and then they're immediately exploding, that's reactive power. And that's the same kind of reactive power that you guys need when you're coming out of the gate. Why? Because of Newton's third law. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So when you guys are at a stand start and you're trying to overcome the inertia of your body weight in the bike and your first movements, moving your head and shoulders first to snap out of the gate, guess what happens to the bike? It goes backwards, right? Even if it's just a smidgen, even if it's just a millimeter, it's still going backwards. And if it's going backwards, that front crank is actually kind of coming up a little bit. And your front leg needs to react off of that as well. So it's a double reaction. You're reacting not only off the light, but you're also reacting on the fact that your bike is actually going backwards. And you have to have developed reactive power to overcome that. So plyometrics is key. Then of course for strength work, both older and younger can both do strength work. Older, obviously in the gym. Younger, you guys could do body weight exercises. And for the older, that means 85% of your 1 rep max, right? That's where you guys want to be playing in. It's not going to be 40%, right? It's not going to be 25%. It's going to be 85% and above. Exploding, right? Exploding. The weight may not look like it's exploding fast, but mentally you want to be thinking about moving that weight as fast as you can. Right? 85% and above. And keeping the reps low, right? Anywhere from 3 to 5 reps. Sometimes it could be 2, sometimes it could be 5, When the speed of contraction slows down, then that'll tell you when you're not executing as powerfully as you can. Okay. And at the same time, again, this means squats. Any kind of bilateral work is totally fine. Squats, deadlifts, rack pulls, and then of course, specific power work, right? Hand cleans, power cleans. And then of course, I like unilateral work. Okay. So, Bulgarian split squats, single leg squats, single leg step ups, right? With heavy weight. All that stuff is really good. Preparing the engine is key. What else do I have here? I also have some notes here. The mentality of going to the gym to do work should be as much as a priority as going to the track to do gates. In my opinion, as a coach, to get to the next level in your racing, you need to approach gym work as a priority of a workout that needs to get done somewhere in your weekly schedule. There should be no negotiations of doing it or not. Listen, I'll give you another example. My athletes, and majority of the high-level Olympic athletes, even at the Olympic Games the week of, we're in the gym. Now, you have to understand what Yeah, let me reframe and give you an understanding of the model of the world and how I look at the gym. I look at the gym like I look at it as an opportunity to sharpen the pencil just as much as I look at a track to sharpen the pencil when it comes to your gait starts, right? Like, and I also look at the track as an opportunity to put in some big volume and get to the point of doing full laps to the point where you're throwing up. You can also look at the gym that way as well. Going to the gym doesn't mean going in there and leaving it all there, right? You got to be smart with your volume. Going to the gym has many different themes, just like going to the track has many different themes, right? Like a lot of you guys should be smart and dedicate. Hey, today I'm doing gait starts. Today I'm doing first straights. Today I'm working on half laps, full laps, working on my power endurance and my ability to produce while my legs are burning, right? Same thing with the gym. So, gym doesn't necessarily mean, oh man, my legs are sore and I can't walk the next day and I can't ride my bike. No. For example, when it comes to the Olympic Games, we're going into the gym 3 or 4 days before we get on the bike. And hey, we may only spend 30 minutes in the gym, a quick warm up, a couple of explosive lifts, and then we're out of there, right? We'll warm up, do the lift, go 100%, do our two or three efforts, boom, we're out. We're not doing a bunch of different accessory exercises. We're not doing, a full-on upper body workout and hypertrophy work and making the muscle bigger. No, we're training specifically the neurological system and training the specificity of exploding through the legs. That's it. We're just trying to remind what the legs do from a neurological standpoint. I hope that makes sense. All right. And I would say the next, this is kind of a runoff from engine prep, sprint training. When it comes to getting the whole shot, sprint training is the key. Again, we talked about in the beginning of the video, if you guys were just to go out and just do gate starts and go to the first turn, sure, or you're very much working on the specificity of that. And I would say at the end of the day, most of you guys are practicing that with the intention of trying to get faster. But more importantly, the way I see it, you guys are just trying to go out there, either trying to master all the movements to where you don't have to think about anything, to where you could just really focus on the intention of getting the whole shot or racing other people while you're going down the first straight without thinking about, pedal manling, jumping, down the first straight, right? And think about, I need to pedal faster. No, you're developing automaticity, the ability for things to come natural to you, just like walking. Number two, a great reason for you guys to go back out to the track week after week is because when you get stronger, your technique also needs to be reconfigured, right? If you get stronger, your technique needs to be reconfigured. It needs to be reminded of what you need to do specifically. You're coming in with more horsepower. Just like a car, if it has better suspension and a faster motor and bigger brakes, hey, that driver still needs to go out and do practice laps with the bigger engine, the bigger brakes, and the lowered suspension. They got to get used to it. They got to program themselves neurologically to reconfigure that kinesthetic feeling. So that's the way I kind of look at going to the track. It's those two things. Number one, for most of you guys, you're just trying to make it to where you're reaching mastery. You're doing the skills without thinking. For a lot of us that are training, dedicated, especially at higher levels, you guys are reconfiguring. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So, sprint training. Doing sprints away from the track is a key to grabbing the whole shot and racing up front. Doing gates at the track, while totally beneficial, again, that's where the magic comes together. That's all about developing automaticity and also developing, reconfiguring the power. But sprint training is going to help out with your sprinting technique, your accelerating technique, your second pedal power position, all these three things that you could do in the beginning from the gate all the way to the 30-foot mark. You guys can knock off tenths of seconds if you guys can improve in all three of those areas, right? Reactive power, actual technique, second pedal power position, shoot, even the first movement position is so important. Every one of you guys can improve in that area. And then of course, sprint training, you guys can work on that kind of stuff while you're actually sprint training. And at the same time, you guys are developing specific power. And if you guys are doing like box sprints on flat ground, guess what? You're imposing even a bigger inertia because it's on flat ground as opposed to an angled starting hill where gravity is already working with you, or rather you're already working with gravity. But if you go on flat ground, gravity is actually working against you, increasing the inertia. And I say here, your sprinting technique and raw power is a limiting factor on how you perform out of the gate against other racers because everyone else is doing gates. The separation is going to happen in power development and the ability, your ability to replicate that over the course of a race day, right? Like keep in mind, you know, it happens to me. It happens to the best of us. Some of us can get a really good gate and out of nowhere, everything happens easily and effortlessly, and you find yourself up front. You find yourself that the pedals are light and you're just accelerating all the way to the first jump, and then like the next moto, the next lap, it's not there. It doesn't feel like the last lap. So the other thing that's important when it comes to sprint training is developing that replication, right? That repeatability. Okay. Guys, keep loading up questions. I see that the chat's going off over here. Jack Baker says he's going for the whole shot. We're getting a couple thumbs up. We're getting some comments. This is fantastic. Basic BMX says really good stuff tonight. Guys, start thinking about what questions you guys want to ask. I'm going to do my best to get to all of these questions. And I'm really loving the questions because I'm going to repeat some of these great questions on social media. All right, so think about some questions. I'm going to hit record on the other camera over here in a moment, and I'll see you guys back in a second for Ask Coach G Live. Again, thank you guys so much for showing up, man. I really appreciate you guys. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back. Hey, listen, I'm having a hard time coming in with my social media comments here, so please forgive me for a moment. Looks like the stream is working well, so that's good. That's all that matters. But if I can't get these social, man, that would kind of be a bummer. Let's see if I can change this here. Change user. Wants me to authenticate Twitter. I don't want that. I want the home timeline. Okay. Let me click off that. And thank you for being patient with me, guys. I really appreciate you guys as always. You know, I'm really good at coaching. Sometimes working with electronics, I am not so good. So forgive me. Really want to bring up some of these social media comments. Huh. YouTube reading comments. That's what I want. How come you're not coming up? View comments. Maybe it's because it's competing with Twitter or something. I don't know. I know that sounds ridiculous, right? That sounds like your dad talking, but let me hit record on my camera. It'll be 2 seconds. All right, and I'm back. Can't get these things to come up. Well, whatever. All right, so let's see what we got. Daniel Groom says, any tips for those of us who choose to remain using flat pedals? Is our ceiling lower? Daniel, what class are you racing? That's a great question. We got some comments here. Jack Baker says, I just learned to use a squat rack today, or I just leaned. I'm going to say that you probably said, you meant to say, I just learned to use a squat rack today. That's great. Jacob James says, I love plyos. I've been doing complex training. I'm having fun with it. Ooh, complex training. Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, it looks like my social media. Let's see if we can get it to work. Comments. Because I really want to show you guys' comments, but I cannot see them. This is... Probably should have tested this before I went live, so forgive me. Yeah, this is not good. This isn't working for me, guys. Maybe my destination isn't correct. All right, well, whatever, man. What a bummer. That's too bad. Let's see here. David says, my gates have been slow lately, so I've gotten good at passing on the rest of the track. You know, that's great, David. I really like that you brought that up because, you know, that's the benefit. I had an athlete that didn't have a great first straight, but he definitely worked on coming from behind, right? He got really good from being really good from the first corner all the way to the finish line. Worked on his track speed, worked on his fitness, and worked on his skills, right? And when he got all that dialed, he went all in on his first straight and his Holeshot. And when he did that, he eventually won an Olympic medal. What do you know? So, you know, there's something to be said about racing from behind because you guys are really scary, right? You guys are really scary because by the time you guys figure out and learn the secrets on how to train for the Holeshot and go all in, man, it's lights out. You guys are the complete package. So keep up the great work. I really want these social media comments to come up. Man, it bothers me because I think it looks awesome when I can blow you guys up here. The coach blew it tonight, guys. He blew it. He blowed it. Warning, output in progress quality may be reduced if you create a new destination with a higher quality than the destinations you currently have will be compromised. So for some reason, I did not pick up the feed. Okay, cool. You know, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, right? What else? What other questions do we have? Darren Rosk asked, what's a good flat ground box sprint for the 30-foot line? I could shoot for, I am 49 and race 46 to 50 expert. So let me rephrase that question one more time so it sounds smoother. What's a good flat ground box sprint for the 30-foot line that I could shoot for? So how long does he want to go? Well, you know, if you're trying to improve your acceleration to the 30-foot mark, then why not go for some really, really short sprints? 2 full cranks, right? Your typical 1 full revolution of a crank is around 15 feet. Doesn't matter if you're on a little kid's mini or if you're on a cruiser, it's 15 feet. 2 revolutions is going to be 30. And so really at the end of the day, you guys, if you guys even break it down more so than that, right? 2 full cranks being 30 feet, 4 half cranks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. is 30 feet. So you really want to focus on not only the power stroke of each of those 4 strokes, but where's your body positioning at? Doing it on flat ground is going to it's going to teach you and enable you to develop more strengthening of your position, because it's going to require more core work. And also at the same time, it's going to require you to produce more strength, more force, right? So keep that in mind when you're doing flat ground. You guys could get you guys can get crazy too in terms of developing power, right? Because power is still force times velocity. And so what's the benefit of that? Well, if you know force times velocity equals power, and you guys are trying to develop more power in your sprint, then, dude, you could do flat ground, flat pedals, bigger gears to increase force, right? If you guys want to create more velocity, or rather what I call rate of discharge, right? How fast a muscle can contract, then you guys could do easier gear, downhill. You can even do a steep downhill stand, start, sprint, right? With a box. So easier gear, downhill, and you guys go deep in either one of those categories, either force or speed, then you guys are giving yourself an opportunity to increase power, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. What's this say? Seize Up says, do I need a gym membership at 43, or can I build strength out? Can I build strength out working out at home? Okay, let me rephrase that question so I say it smoother. Seize Up says, do I need a gym membership at 43 years old, or can I build a strength workout system at home, like buying a squat rack? Listen, you could totally do it at home. And recently, over Christmas, my significant other actually purchased me a squat rack. I've always had a squat rack. I've had a squat rack in my garage for like over 20 years, but we recently bought a new place here in San Diego, and the garage was actually it was like 92 inches, whereas my last garage, it was infinite. It was huge. It was big. And I had a really tall squat rack, so I couldn't really set it up down here. So we sold that. And I probably waited like 6 months, and I got tired of doing deadlifts and rack pulls and getting creative with the equipment. I still have, Olympic barbells, Olympic rubber bumper weights. So I was able to do some lifts, but I didn't have a squat rack. So I think for BMX, if you guys get a squat rack, get some weights, get an Olympic barbell, you guys could do all kinds of things with that. You don't need to go to the gym. You really don't. You guys could be as loud as you want doing deadlifts at home. You could yell at in your garage, right? And no one's gonna go full Karen on you and get mad, right? That's the problem with gyms. And at gyms, you have to wait for someone to finish doing you have to wait for someone to finish doing curls in the squat rack. That's the thing I hate about gyms. But yeah, Amazon. I think it's called Hawk Fit. I need to find the link and probably throw it into the chat. I'll find it. But there was a great squat rack that we got for like $260 shipped. Hulk Fit, $265 shipped on Amazon, shipped free. Like, I was looking at Rogue squat racks. Did that work? Let me get the link in there. Here's the link. Boom. Oh, it's too many characters. There's too many characters. 204 out of 200 characters. So let me remove the www. You might have to put the www in the HTTPS, but see if that link's clickable. So, I don't know why it says Hagerstown, but see if that link is clickable. And God, there's got to be a way for me to share my laptop on the feed here. But this rack here will fit pretty much almost any garage, $265. You're going to need a good barbell. You guys are going to need some weight. So of course, you know, you're going to be investing probably $600, but man, you know, over the course of a year or two, paying for a membership, it's going to pay for itself. And there's all kinds of exercises that you guys can totally do. In fact, a lot of the training that I drop into my membership, a lot of training that I do with world's training plans, training plans for Olympic athletes, we rarely use any machines. We rarely use machines that you can't do. We rarely do exercise that you can't do at home. Maybe a glute ham machine would be ideal, but you know, there's another alternative for that. You could do an RDL, a Romanian deadlift. Yeah, so you guys could totally train at home. ET Racer says, I chatted with you 2 weeks ago about trying to earn a NAG 5 or better as a 14X. I have always had a slower first straight. I'm just starting with weighted squats and things based on your videos. Awesome. His question is, what should my gold targets be at 14 years old for how much weight I should be squatting body weight? 115%, 85%? Where is a good target to shoot for? Great question. I work with a lot of 14-year-olds. I work with a lot of guys that are 13, 14, 15 that are just new, right? You guys are beginner and intermediate to strength training. And I would say 13 years old, when you guys hit puberty, that's going to be the optimal age where you guys want to start imposing resistive training, right? More than body squats, but actually putting a barbell on. And so what's the target for a 14-year-old, like a beginner? You know, body weights, squatting your body weight is always going to be the first target, right? Then once from there, you want to start, you want to start thinking about like a 20 to 25% increment of your body weight. Now, I will give you guys this, and I don't want you guys to go too crazy, but I quantified probably, I don't know, 12 years ago that an elite athlete in BMX needs to be doing at least 2.5 times their body weight, okay, to be competitive out of the gate, down the first straight. And I figured this out by training tons of Olympic athletes, right? 2.5 times body weight was always a key. I've had a guy, David Herman, 145 pounds, and he was able to squat 405, right? Ridiculous. Guys like Corbin Sherraw, who weigh, you know, right around 180, 185 pounds, 500-pound box squats all day long, okay? That's 2.5 times your body weight. So, you know, that's for the elite level. So at 14, you're not elite. So maybe 2 times your body weight would be one heck of an objective, right? One heck of an objective to have as a target to shoot for. But definitely doing your body weight as a beginning weightlifter, you definitely want to work on your technique, make sure you're doing it properly. And then, yeah, I have no problems with a new weightlifter actually figuring out what their 1 rep max is, or in this case, I actually have them figure out their 1 rep max by doing a multiple rep max and figuring out what their 1 RM is through a calculation. And then I would say from there, I'll have my athletes go through a progression of imposing, 60, 70, 80% with multiple reps and developing some base, developing some hypertrophy, making your muscle bigger, imposing the right and correct demand for your ligaments, your joints, and of course your bones. And then once you've done that phase, it's totally okay for you guys to start working at your 85% of your 1 rep max of whatever that was. No problem. No problem at all. It's when you start to go above 100%, right, and trying to do multiple reps, that's when you start to compromise your technique because you don't have everything, you don't have all of the accessory muscles. Your lower back, your adductors, your abductors, your core, right? Those are the muscles that you're trying to really develop when you do a body squat. When you develop those, then that's when you can actually put up more weight. Your stabilizers are key when you're doing exercises like that. So that means also it's important for you to not only do a bilateral squat, but things like lunges, single leg squats, single leg step ups with a barbell or holding dumbbells, and if you hold, and do that with a do that like a Bulgarian split squat, holding dumbbells. All those different exercises will help with the accessory muscles, which is key. And once you figured out how to engage those accessory muscles and work on your technique, you're going to find that you're also, in a roundabout way, training your leg, your accessory muscles when you come out of the gate. Your core, your lower back, your abductors, your adductors, your glute, your not only your glute maximus, but your glute glute minimus, right? There's two glutes, maximus and minimus. And so that's key. Let's see here. Comac24 says, I set up a squat rack at my home, and after a few months, I was 3 to 4 seconds faster around my home track. I set up a squat rack at my home, and after a few months, I was 3-4 seconds faster around my home track, Comac24 says. Man, that's great. Yeah, because check it out. When you get stronger at the beginning of the race, your laps are actually, it's an exponential gain. You're going to have more energy coming out of the first turn because you're stronger, right? You're more effective in terms of burning up ATP, CP energy. But I don't need to go there, but that's science. I'm not a scientist, but at the end of the day, that's what you're experiencing. It's exponential. When you increase your first straight power and speed and technique, man, it really does make it easier for you guys to finish the rest of the track. It's less of a struggle. You guys have more gas in the tank. You guys are developing more power. What other questions do we have? Justin, forgive me if I mispronounced your name here. Justin McMenamin. Justin McMenamin. Got it. Justin McMenamin says, I'm just getting into racing with my 8-year-old. What a great time. Can you recommend a product that we can use at home to practice gate starts? I mean, other than getting a gate, the easy, inexpensive way to do sprints, stand start sprints is two things. Number one, you could balance your handlebar grip up against a pole, right? And have him set up as he's doing a gate start and just launch from there. Otherwise, you could get a box or you could get a sprint block. Those are very expensive and those are really nice. But those are kind of complicated for a younger, newer BMXer. So using a box from Home Depot, I don't have one in the office here. It's actually in another room. But you guys could, but for an 8-year-old, definitely you could do a box sprint just like this right here. See that box right there? Home Depot 12 bucks. It's probably about 8 to 9, 10 inches tall. Okay, and when he sets up, his cranks will probably be around just level. So definitely consider one of those. Justin, thank you very much for tuning in, and man, welcome to the sport. Awesome sport. I actually started when I was 8 years old. So, and such a great sport. It's helped me out in so many different aspects of my life. So many awesome people in the sport of BMX. Talking BMX with Dennis. My gates are good, but seems like my second and third pedal is slow. Any ideas? Talking BMX with Dennis says, my gates are slow, but forgive me. Talking BMX with Dennis says, my gates are good, but Talking BMX with Dennis says, my gates are good, but seems like my second and third pedals is slow. Any ideas? Absolutely. Dennis, thank you so much for showing up and asking that question. Great question. So a couple things come to mind without being able to communicate with you directly. I'm going to do a little mind reading right here, but first off, the coach in me, I'm thinking about technique, right? Like, what's your acceleration technique looking like? Where's the placement of your shoulders over the handlebars getting into your second and third pedal? Now, when you say second and third pedal, are you talking half cranks? I'm gonna presuppose that you're talking half cranks, right? So technique, body positioning is key. And then, of course, any ideas? Work on this technique while you're doing box sprints, flat ground sprints. What a great opportunity to knock out two birds with one stone. Number one, working on your technique, your acceleration position, right? Getting it done properly. And then, of course, the second half benefit of that, of course, is developing force, developing power specifically for coming out of the gate, and improving and imposing the demand to improve your second and third pedal. Thank you. Justin says, McMenamin says, oh, perfect. Thank you. He says, Jacob James says, you can always shim that box with 2x4 to level out the pedals. Yes. Great recommendation, Jacob. Jacob, I need to make you a moderator. Basic BMX, he has a comment or a question. Let's see here. Looks like he's coaching someone in the thread here. All right, let's go back up to the top. There's a couple comments up here. 4130 says, Anthony Picardo just proved flat pedals are still a capable skill. Yes, absolutely. EPOP took that loss at SD. Ooh, I'm going to stay out of that one. Here we go. We got a question. Sarah Nolivo says or ask, any advice for day-to-day recovery at 3-day races? For example, 9 races day 1, 8 races day 2, and 7 races day 3. Day 2 seemed to be the hardest for my son. Ooh, you know, there's a couple things that I do for recovery, and you know, I'll draw from my experience, so forgive me if I'm going anecdotal and I bring up the past, but you know, sometimes we bring up the past and it's like, oh, you know, like he's living in the past, but you know, there's some experience to be, you know, here's the thing. There's a couple things here. We'll look at this from I'll give you some recovery tips, but let's look at some recovery recommendations, right? What are you doing for recovery? I'm sorry. We'll go over some recovery tips and recommendations, but also what are you doing for preparation of recovery, right? Like, is the rider training for that kind of volume away from the nationals, racing 9 laps, day 1, day 2, 8, day 3, 7. So how many laps is that in total? 17 and 7. 24 laps over a weekend, right? So 9 races day 1, and day 2, you say he seems to struggle. Now, is that the day of day 2 or after day 2 he's struggling? Sounds like it's of day 2, right? Because from the previous day, it's a lot of racing. So what are you guys doing for interval work, right? Half lap work, full lap work. It could be anything like, you know, half lap, 3/4 lap, full lap. Impose the demand. Teach the rider to teach his body how to recover, how to remove lactic acid metabolic waste from the legs and the system after each lap, right? And then I would say at night, some things that you guys could do, or rather between each race, right? So that's preparation, right? Let's talk about recovery between both laps and also day-to-day at nationals. Number one, what are you doing for recovery between laps? Are you doing soft pedal work, right? And removing metabolic waste by slowly, easily, and effortlessly keeping the legs moving. Another trick is if there's a lot of metabolic waste, after you've done that recovery, he can go lay down and put his legs up on a chair and do that for 10 minutes. And maybe you could shake out each quad, each leg, both hamstring, quad, shake it out and let everything drain and come back and circulate through the circulatory system. Okay, so that's something that you guys could do. And then, of course, nutrition. BMX being a sprinting sport, and we're metabolizing carbohydrates, sugar. Are you replacing the sugar? Are you replacing the carbohydrates? Are you eating between each lap? Are you eating throughout the day? That's key as well. And simple sugars sometimes help, right? And then, of course, at night, again, more carbohydrates, some water, right? Get hydrated. Pre-hydrated, stay hydrated, and then focus on post-hydration as well. Okay, so carbohydrates and hydration, rubbing the legs out, and then making sure that you're removing metabolic waste in the way of doing a soft pedal recovery after each lap. And then, of course, my one last secret tip, there's a couple things that you guys could do if you're at a hotel. You can go into the pool, don't do swimming laps, but you can walk around the pool really slowly, okay? And that will create some kind of pump that replicates massage, where again, it's all about getting circulation from the legs and circulating any metabolic waste in the upper body, lower body, and removing metabolic waste and making sure that it's all removed. You don't want the body to go in a state of edema. Edema means swelling. If the body is swelling, it cannot recover, right? Think about a bruise, right? When you smack something and it bruises and swells up, that's a good thing, but at the same time, you really can't start recovery until that swelling goes away. And then you can start working on rehabbing that injured part that was bruised, right? Whether it was a knee, an elbow, whatever, right? A quad, a contusion. Okay, and then the other trick that you could do is also an ice bath. Okay, fill up the bathtub in the hotel. Fill it up with cold water. Get some ice, either from the local market, or get some ice out of the ice maker down the hall, and fill that sucker up, and see if you could sit in there for at least 10 minutes. It's going to be hard, but what that's going to do, that's going to reduce any kind of swelling, because at the end of the day, when you guys are putting in hard all out laps, especially like 9 laps, that's a lot, right? You're dealing with edema, right? You're dealing with swelling of the muscles as well. You're doing damage to the muscle fiber. So reduce swelling allows the muscle to recover. Okay, it'll allow itself to repair, and it'll allow the nutrients of whatever you eat to help repair, whether it's protein, and of course restoring glycogen levels through carbohydrates. All right, that's a lot. I was all over the board, but man, I love that kind of stuff. Very scientific. And then, of course, a good old-fashioned massage, right? Like, I remember I have my dad come with me to the races, and I would just straight up have him shake out my legs between motos. And, also there's all kinds of different ways that you could do self-massage. I don't have anything here, but like, you guys could use a foam roller to roll out your glutes, roll out your hamstrings, calves, and of course your quads, roll out the back, lower back. You use one of those small foam rollers. You guys can totally travel with it, put it in your bike box, or put it in your gear bag. And in fact, I would definitely use that massage roller between laps if you guys can. All right, more comments are coming in. Nick Chalk says, my son's gates are really bad. Keep being told his cranks are... My son's gates are really bad. Keep being told make his cranks longer. He's only 7. His track speed is very good. Normally gets top 3 in nationals still, but always from behind. Most riders look too choppy. I'll dissect that one here in a minute. Days Rock says, hit that like button, everyone, and help out Coach and the show. Basic BMX says, good idea. Like it up, folks. Yeah, son's gates are really bad. So yeah, work on the gates. Cranks longer. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Track speed, very good. Gets top 3 in national, but always from behind. So he's not racing up front. Yeah, so 7 years old, very young. You know, no offense, there's a lot of incompetence going on, right? They're like mastery is far from there when it comes to a 7-year-old, right? Like mastery, when it comes to mastery, it's 10,000 hours. But some of us, if we could replicate the whole thing and do it over and over again, you guys, you know, sometimes it's less than that. The body is amazing. We could totally get to a place of mastery. Mastery meaning that you're doing it perfectly without thinking. Okay. Wow. And Jack Baker just put some money into the chat. Thank you very much. 99 cents. I'll take that. But Nick, listen, at the end of the day, one of the things that you want to focus on is, what is your 7-year-old son doing, for gate start training, gate start technique training, and also acceleration training? I have no problems with the 7-year-old going specific, working on technique and working on power. No different than a 7-year-old figuring out how to play pee-wee football. That means, you know, grabbing the ball and sprinting with it and doing sprinting drills to work on form and work on imposing the demand of leg speed for, you know, trying to outrun the opponent. No different than a 7-year-old baseball player going to batting practice and getting pitches to hit one after another, right? Getting in some volume, getting in some repetition. So at the same time working on technique. So when it comes to BMX racing for a 7-year-old, you definitely want to be focusing on gait technique and also, you know, his sprinting ability, his technique, right? His sprinting ability, technique, and also how fast is he accelerating, right? Working on that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not going to hurt him. Now, when it comes to gearing and cranks, that's a whole nother discussion, but I want to make sure at the end of the day, is he getting the gait technique right? Is he getting the work in? Is he working on sprint training to complement that gate start and also his ability to hole shot and race up front rather than from behind? Okay. Once you've done all those things, then you can start tinkering with equipment, gears and crank length and all that stuff. And a lot of that's just from the eye, right? Like sometimes there's a lot of charts that you guys can look at and based on inseams. And listen, I mean, I got a really small inseam, but I've enjoyed racing with 182s. I've also enjoyed racing with 177s, but it says I should be racing with 180s. I've never liked 180s. I liked either 182s or 177s. Didn't like 175s, didn't like 185s. So when it comes to crank lengths and gears, you know, forget gears, crank lengths, that's something that you're going to have to figure out what he likes. In terms of chopping, that could be fixed through sprint training. If he ain't sprint training, then it doesn't matter what cranks he has on. He's going to be chopping. Sprint training is chopping if you don't know how to sprint. Just like my running would be choppy if I don't practice sprinting running, right? I remember showing up for basketball tryouts. I'm a BMX racer. I'm always on my bike, standing up, sprinting my butt off. Show up to basketball, and they have me doing these drills where I'm doing these shuttle runs, and I'm doing this drill going from the top of the key and running to the middle of the key to do a layup. And the coach was like, "What's up with your footwork?" It was choppy, right? Like, well, shit, I don't know. I don't ever play basketball. It's like, dude, like, I didn't impose a demand of going from the top of the key and running up to the backboard to lay the ball up. You have to impose the demand. Every 7-year-old is going to be choppy. Just like any 2-year-old is going to be choppy when they're walking. Oh, man. Forgive me, man. I'm like, I'm talking to you guys, but really at today, it's like I'm just in this room talking to myself. I wish I could bring you guys up and just be like, yo, let's talk about it. What are the questions we got? Here we go. I think we have a comment. I'm not sure. Jonah Tillman says, "Hey, coach, I finally found a gap to start hitting the gym to work on my strength training. I have very little time, though. What would you say a 13-year-old boy should focus on?" Man, great question. 13 years old, strength training, just like we were talking about a 7-year-old trying to figure out how to sprint, right? Just showing up to the gym just showing up to the gym on a consistent basis. Congratulations. Just showing up to the gym on a consistent basis. Congratulations, man. That's hard. Number 2, focusing on getting the work done, right? And when I say getting the work done, that means having a plan and getting it done. And at the same time, getting your technique right? Technique is going to be everything at 13 years old. Maximum weight's that's not the focus. Getting the technique and imposing the volume, right? To where you're starting to develop hypertrophy, starting to impose a demand on the accessory muscles. Again, we spoke about that earlier. Lower back, core, inner thigh, outer thigh, which is going to be your adductors, abductors, glute medius. What other questions do we have? Darren Ross says, how do I train myself to come over out of the gate at nationals? I always ride a straight line out of the gate and I'm always getting pinned or squished in the middle and having to hit my brakes. Right. So you need more right out of the gate, right? Like, yeah. So that means 30-foot work. 30-foot work is where the race is really close to other racers. Okay. So you definitely need to work on gate start power and reaction. That means number 1, technique. Are you getting the technique properly? Because I'm finding that, man, 7 out of 10 racers, their technique can improve in gate start power and reaction. And by doing that, they can improve by tenths of a second. When you improve by tenths of a second, you're improving by inches. Inches is everything when you're handlebar to handlebar next to a competitor to either your right or your left. So working on your gate start reaction and power, number 1, technique. Are you leading with the head and shoulders properly? Are you able to stay in the proper acceleration position, getting to your second half crank and then staying there? If you can do that, then you can pass go. Pass go means we're working on sprints. Okay, working on sprints specifically to improve gate start power and reaction. That means short sprints. That means imposing a demand of overcoming inertia with flat ground sprints, big gear sprints, flat ground, big gear, flat pedal sprints. Okay, you see where I'm going here? But it all comes back. Listen, you guys can work on your force and your power all day you want with sprints, but if you're not able to get in the proper technique with power, if you can't deliver power without a proper technique, you guys are leaving you guys are leaving tenths of a seconds on the table, right? Doing power, working on your strength in the gym, sometimes that's just a band-aid to overcome your bad technique. And sometimes that's okay. But if you guys can work on your technique, whether you're a pro, whether you're an intermediate, doesn't really matter, you guys are going to discover more power, more efficiency, getting ahead of other competitors. There's a sneaky way of finding an unfair advantage by working on your gate start technique. Okay? And yeah, that's the way you do it. You got to work on your technique. I hope that answered your question. Technique, and then of course working on your gate start, specific gate start power and reaction, all right, through sprint training. And then once you've graduated from that, then you guys can go ahead and start imposing strength training. Thanks, Darren. I really appreciate that, man. All right, guys, we've hit the 7:11 mark. I'll take a few more questions here, and then I hear the lovely downstairs. She's banging pots and pans, and I can smell food. So usually I tell her, listen, I'm going to be about an hour and 15 minutes, and we're coming up on that hour and 15 minute mark. Really appreciate you guys. The Salty Scout says he had a question up above, so let's look for that. I'll do that now. Let me scroll. The Salty Scout. Man, it's way up there. Maybe ask it again. Okay. Question regarding training scars. As an intermediate who is constantly put in motos with experts, I try to set goals for closing the gap between me and the rider in front of me. Okay, that's one of two. 4130 says a lot of riders struggle with being aggressive, especially dealing with the pinch at the first obstacle and down the first straight. Very true. If you're not aggressive, you're going to get the squeeze. Yeah, it takes some courage, man. Like, such a great comment there. It takes a lot of courage to be aggressive, right? That's another thing you guys have to program yourself, is to go for the whole shot regardless, and practice rubbing up against other people. Now, with little kids, it's very tough, because once they have a crash, they're triggered that, hey, being aggressive and being close to other riders means I'm going to crash, so I'm just going to back down. Parents, you guys deal with that a lot. As a practitioner of someone that helps people out with crashing from a mental aspect, listen, it's just a program. We could totally deprogram that. But at the same time, you guys could get them comfortable by simply, when you do a stand-start sprint out in front of the house or on some grass, the parent can just be right next to them for at least the first 2 full cranks and get their elbow right next to their elbow and rub up against them and kind of bump them a little bit, but teach them to keep pedaling all the way through. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I love that. Yeah, man, this is a really busy chat tonight. So, Salty Scout, if you have a question for me, forgive me, please ask it again. The Real John Nevin asked, what gear ratios are the pros running? I've always wondered how 44/16 could be good for 12-year-olds and adult athletes. Here's the thing. We know that one full crank revolution, whether you're a 6 and under rider or a six-year veteran at the World Cup level, like if you're a 26-year-old pro, yeah, it's roughly around 15 feet. So we're not talking about something that's totally drastic here. Now, the thing is, as a young racer, it's kind of like the porridge being just right kind of thing, right? Too easy, they're chopping, they're pedaling, but they're not going anywhere, and they're all over the place. Too hard, not enough muscle strength to overcome the inertia out of the gate, and they're struggling, and when they're struggling, the bike's going to be going back and forth because the gear's too hard. And so just right? 15 feet. Now, you can fine-tune that, right, through either crank size or lowering it a little bit. But when you lower the gear, listen, it's not like you're changing that distance of a full revolution from 15 feet to 10 feet. You're always given, give or take, within 15 feet. Now, when it comes to older riders running the same gear ratio as a 6-year-old, listen, they're developed in terms of sprinting ability, sprinting technique, sprinting muscular and neurological discharge, right? They're able to get their Bruce Lee on with the pedals, ba-ba, really fast and really strong with a lot of force and a lot of quickness. And yet, yeah, it's still 15 feet, because guess what? If you're bigger, if you're stronger, if you got more raw power than the next guy, you put on a bigger gear, everything moves slower, right? Why struggle? So you don't want to go bigger because you're stronger. It's still going to be within that range. So think about that, right? Why would I make the gear roll out 16 feet if I'm 6'6" and 300 pounds and can squat 1,000 pounds? Like, that makes no sense. You want to be able to have a gear that you can compete with out of the gate and get on top of right away. And speaking in terms of like the pro class, right? Like that's the key. So there's a little game there where you want to be able to go as hard as you want to be able to go as tall as you can, but yet not compromise your gate start reaction power and or your technique and your ability to accelerate down the first straight. And at the same time, you don't want to go too easy, because that means you got to move faster. See, that's the thing that people forget. When the gear is easier, when it goes lower, you have to react faster. Everything has to move quicker. You have to react faster. You have to pedal even faster. And so, it's rare where you're going to find, like, out of I don't know, 100 pros, everyone's running a 44.16, someone's running a 42.16. Very rare. Very rare. Everyone, give or take, is within like an inch of that 15 foot. Pretty crazy. Okay, here we go. The Salty Scout, he asked a question. Thank you for being patient there. How do I overcome training scars of never getting the opportunity to pass in turns of other areas of the track when always chasing expert? Training scars. Okay, so what you're trying to say is that you're developing a program in your subconscious mind that, because you're racing older racers and you're never able to, and they're getting ahead and they're experts. That's what you said? You're chasing experts, so you're never really in the mix. How do you overcome those scars? Man, that's a tough one. That's a really challenging question, I must admit. But I will say this. I think the key is you want to find someone that you can actually train with and do full laps with at the track. Find a training partner, whether it's an older guy, a younger person, someone that's within your speed. If they're not within their speed and they're faster, ask them to slow down, and just straight up just say, hey man, can you spend 20 minutes with me and let's work on, I want to be able to work on passing, right? That's a way you could do it. If I was working with a 13-year-old the other day, and she's like, yeah, I'm racing 15-year-old male experts, and they live in the Northeast. And so you're going to find that from time to time, right? Not everywhere is California and Texas and Florida, where, you show up to the local race and a 13-year-old girl is going to have, a rack of 7, which would be awesome. So yeah, it gets frustrating a lot, right? It gets frustrating a lot. So how do you overcome that? How do you overcome that? You need to find a training partner. That's going to be my best suggestion. It's funny. I'm glad you brought that up, because when we're training at the Olympic Training Center and I'm coaching girls and males, big discrepancy, right? Big discrepancy. And I quantified that female women pro, right? Female women pro, you need around a 14 expert, a top 14 expert. Yeah, around a top 14 expert can hang is fast enough to compete with, an Elise Post, for example, a Mariana Pahone. So we would actually grab 14 and 15-year-olds to get on the gate at the Olympic Training Center. Right? You got to think, you got to get out of the box and think creatively. Man, really good feed tonight, man. You guys are challenging me. I'm studying my words. I'm like, wow. I'm getting, it's been a while since I've done this, and I'm really excited. Next week, I promise to have all the social questions working, and that way you guys get a shout out on here. Man, but you guys really asked a lot of good questions tonight. Again, I'm really grateful for you guys to show up. If you guys didn't show up, I would be alone, right? Right now we have 40 concurrent viewers, and man, I'm really, really grateful. I'm really grateful. Really grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. Man, listen, keep working on your whole shot, right? The race is up front. 80% of the races are won from getting the whole shot. Even if you don't get the whole shot, the race is still up front. So always go for the whole shot. Try to be top 3 in that first corner. Try to grab the whole shot in that corner. Keep developing the mentality of getting the whole shot. Keep being aggressive about getting the whole shot. Keep going for the whole shot, whether it's practice, whether it's a moto, whether it's a state race, a national, go for it. Okay. And then at the same time, keep working on your engine prep, right? Whether it's gym training, force development, if you're a younger rider, working on your body weight exercises, and then of course keep working on your sprint training as well, right? Working on that gate start power and reaction, keep working on that technique, keep working on flat ground sprints, right? Keep working away from the track, okay? Being at the track and then doing your work, when you go home, the work isn't done. If you guys want to have success, the secret is to doing work away from the track when no one's looking. It's not sexy, not at all. But you don't need to do a whole lot of work at home, right? You only need like an hour. That's it, an hour to go deep. And that's the other key when it comes to working on your whole shot, going deep in one area, not trying to fit in a bunch of different things in one workout. Just if today you're working on, the first movement, work on the first movement for an hour. If it's working on your second pedal acceleration position, work on that for an hour. Dedicate yourself. If you're working on force development and through sprint training, do that one sprint for an hour, okay? That's the key. You only need 60 minutes. BMX sprint training, BMX is an anaerobic sprint workout, right? It's an anaerobic sprint demand. It's not an endurance sport. It's not an endurance activity, right? Like I do endurance activities. I'm out, blowing myself up. On Strava, find me at Greg Romero. But I'm out there doing 3-hour rides, trying to hang with pros, literally, and it's tough, and it takes a lot of time. Now in road bike endurance training, 12, 15, 20-hour weeks. It's crazy. BMX, 5 days a week, 1 hour a day away from the track. That's only 5 hours, man. It's not much. It's nothing. So, all right, guys. I'll see you guys next week. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter at BMX Training. Ask me questions there. Give me some good ideas of what you guys want to see in future live videos. And also at the same time, someone mentioned it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video after it's done. Again, really grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. You guys have a good night. I'll see you guys next week.